Marco Bezzecchi is leading the MotoGP World Championship, and on Saturday at Brno, he climbed out of a gravel trap, walked up to a Marshal lifting his own bike, put a hand in the man's face, and hit him, the points leader. On camera, the clips are everywhere now, and almost all of them sell the easy version. Bezzecchi lost his temper, end of story. But the easy version misses what actually happened in that gravel, and what it just cost him. Why would the man with the most to lose do the one thing guaranteed to cost him? And who walks away from this weekend holding everything Bezzecchi threw on the ground? Here is why this is not just a bad Saturday night. Hours after the footage spread across social media, the stewards made it official. Bezzecchi is suspended from Sunday's Czech Grand Prix. Not fined, not a grid penalty, banned outright from the feature race, the one that pays the most points of the weekend. The sport reached for the heaviest language in its book, conduct prejudicial to the interests of the sport, and aimed it at the rider sitting on top of its own championship. The moment he was ruled out of Sunday, the whole shape of this title fight changed. Start with where he was when it went wrong. Bezzecchi was running fifth, inside the points, on the penultimate lap of the sprint, when he lost the front at turn 3 and slid into the gravel. Fifth in a sprint is no disaster for a leader. You bank the points, reset, attack on Sunday. That was the plan. That is not what he gets. Because his points lead was never the fortress people assume. His teammate Jorge Martin has stayed glued to him all season, the one rival close enough to punish a mistake, and after Saturday, the gap is down to just 15 points. One swing, that is all 15 points is at this level. And now Bezzecchi has handed himself the worst weekend possible because the ban means he does not start Sunday at all. 0 in the biggest race of the round, while Martin lines up with a clear track and the most points on offer right in front of him. So the leader scores nothing where it counts most, and the man chasing him gets a completely free run at the gap. And it is not only Martin who feeds on this. Further back, a sharpened Marc Marquez took third on the road and clawed 7 points closer. A 0 from the leader is oxygen for everyone in that chase. That is the cost. The cost is not even the strangest part. Watch the footage slower, and a detail jumps out that the rage edits skip. Bezzecchi was in no hurry at first. He climbed out and started walking off. Then his Aprilia suddenly revved hard, because a Marshal lifting it had caught the throttle by accident. That is the moment he spun around and ran back. He hit the kill switch, and on the way to it, he put his right hand flat in the Marshal's face, shoved him, and appeared to slap him. This was not a man swinging at the nearest target. It was a man who heard his engine screaming and lost every ounce of judgment getting to it. All of it sits on his own onboard camera. The reason and the reaction both. And the reaction is the part that ended his weekend. And here is the part almost nobody is connecting tonight. This is not the first time. Go back to Valencia, 2022. A rookie Bezzecchi crashes in practice, his Ducati catches fire, and he grabs and shoves the Marshal working the scene. Fined €1,000, official warning. His explanation then? Listen to how familiar it sounds. The bike burned for so much time, he said. And if it exploded, it was dangerous for everyone. This is why also with the Marshal I was a bit angry. Fire then, a screaming engine now. Same trigger, same reflex, same hands on a Marshal. Which is exactly why what the stewards did next matters so much. They called him in. They heard the explanation, the panic, the engine, all of it. And they suspended the championship leader from the biggest race of the weekend anyway. The official wording is cold. Following a crash, you pushed and struck circuit marshals who were trying to recover your machine, an action prejudicial to the interests of the sport. The sport had its own points leader in the room, with a reason, and chose to make an example of him instead of shielding him. There is one more voice the angry clips conveniently leave out. On the onboard audio, the Marshal can be heard saying he was only trying to pick the bike up. That is the entire case against Bezzecchi in one sentence. A volunteer in a high-visibility vest, reaching into a gravel trap to drag a heavy machine out of danger, shoved and struck by the most important rider in the championship. Aprilia has already said it will appeal, but an appeal cannot unfilm the footage, and it cannot answer what that footage says about its leader. And there is a reason all this pressure is detonating on his Saturdays, of all days. This was already his 4th sprint crash of the season, across just 9 sprints. Asked why his Saturdays keep falling apart, Bezzecchi did not dodge it. "That is what I am asking myself as well," he admitted. "I would love to feel good every day on the bike, but for some reason, I am struggling on Saturday." A championship leader who cannot trust his own Saturdays is a leader standing on a fault line. The Marshal was simply the moment that fault line cracked open. So let us say the real thing out loud. Everyone is filing this under temper, a hot head who needs to count to 10. That is the comfortable version, and it lets the bigger problem off the hook. Bezzecchi did not lose Sunday to Martin's pace, or Bagnaia's racecraft, or a broken engine, or the rain. He lost it to himself. The man leading the World Championship walked into the one situation on a race weekend with nothing to gain and everything to lose, and detonated his own Sunday. And this is where the pattern stops being trivia. Twice now, under stress, with his bike in apparent danger, his first instinct was his hands. The first time the sport fined a rookie and moved on. This time, he is the points leader with a title on the line, and the sport decided the leniency was finished. That is the flip. This was never really about a Marshal at turn 3. It was about what the most pressure of his life does to the way Bezzecchi makes decisions. Here is the verdict. A championship is not only won on your fastest days, it is won on your worst days, the ones when you keep the damage small. That is the skill that never makes a highlight reel, and it is the exact one Bezzecchi failed tonight. 5th was a small bad day. The ban is a self-inflicted disaster he built in about 10 seconds of lost control. A routine sprint crash turned into the most expensive mistake of his title campaign. And listen to what he said about the sprint before the weight of it landed. He called the whole thing a difficult situation, admitted he was sad, and said the only thing left was to work for tomorrow and build a better race. Work for tomorrow. He will not get tomorrow. The cruelest line in this whole story is one Bezzecchi spoke himself, about a Sunday he will now spend watching the man chasing him race for the points he just gave back. Aprilia can appeal the ban. It cannot appeal what the footage says about its leader under pressure. So forget the temper. The real question is whether a rider who answers pressure with his hands can hold a title lead all the way to the end. Does this cost Bezzecchi the championship? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.